What's up, people? Welcome to week 8 of this class. You are recovering from having turned in SA1. I am still in the midst of grading them, so that's fun. Okay, they should be done this week. You'll get your papers back. You will have commentary on your papers, a grade, and make sure you look at everything. Okay, because I will be grading SA2 the exact same way as I grade SA1. So all the mistakes you make on SA1 will need to be fixed for your future paper, meaning as in like you need to master that skill and not replicate the same mistakes for SA2. Okay. I am very consistent and repetitive here. I'm grading your essays the same way that I graded your classwork. Only difference is that I'm putting a much more closer eye on your essays. There are things that maybe I might have overlooked or didn't count every single error on your classwork assignments, but for your essay, catching all of them. All right, and SA2 will be graded the exact same way. There's like there should be no confusion or no like gotcha. It's all the same. Okay, you have different tasks for SA2, which you need to make sure that which I'm going to go over in a moment, that you'll need to accomplish and perform. But as long as you follow the directions and you don't make the same mistakes from SA1, then you should be good for SA2. Okay. So this week, let's see. Oops. This week, you don't have any actual work. Okay. You just have tasks that you need to get done. All right. Today I'm going to go over SA2. All right. At the beginning of the semester, I did emphasize how SA1 is going to take a while to get through. We're going to, there's a lot to go over. All right. But the time for SA2 and SA3 will go pretty quickly because besides the task, you are doing the same thing for SA2 and SA3. All right. The differences for SA2 and SA3 are just that they're going to be longer and over different stuff. All right. But like sightings, using sources, citing sources, incorporating sources, integrating quotes, referring to stories, all that, analyzing the stories, all that's the same. Okay. So while we had like 6 weeks to work through SA1, for SA2, we're jumping straight into it now. All right. I asked you to watch Candyman, so I hope that you did, because here I'm going to discuss it. Okay. And it'll make much more sense if you watched Candyman. All right. Because SA2 is film analysis. And the reason we're doing film analysis, well, two reasons. One, because SA3 is you are analyzing the book you read and its adaptation, its film adaptation. So SA1 is about literature, SA2 is about film, and then SA3 is about literature and film. All right. Now, a lot of other 1102 classes do poetry. And I'm not opposed to poetry. I love poetry. Poetry is great. Okay. But I will say, though, that not a lot of people read poetry outside of school. So sad. But a lot of people watch film. A lot of people watch, they stream shows. And I think that there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of themes that we can pull from film that are more, I think, relatable on a day-to-day basis. I think that because so many more people are watching films and have access to streaming media, that like being able to understand that there's way more to the screen than just a storyline would be helpful, and useful for you all. That when you're sitting there watching something, that you can think about also like not just what's it about, but what does it mean, and is it insightful? Is it not? I think learning how to analyze film and look for deeper meanings will just enhance the activity. And since you are far more actively probably involved in viewing the screens, than rather reading poetry on your own. I just figured that doing a film analysis essay would be a lot more relatable. Okay, so if anyone's like, "Oh, we're doing poetry," you can just tell them, "Well, that's why, because I think film is much more applicable to the everyday student than poetry." Even though I love poetry, okay, but still. So essay 2 is film analysis and film and critical analysis. All right, let's go. Essay 2. This paper will be a lot like essay 1. You will conduct research on 2 specific types of critical lenses. I'm going to go over those critical lenses in a moment. Pick a film of your own choosing to watch and apply those 2 lenses. Your paper will discuss those 2 lenses, and you will provide an analysis of the film on both those lenses. You will be writing, your paper needs to be 4 full pages, okay, 2 secondary sources, and then 1 film, and then a work. Actually, hold on. We're not going to do 2 secondaries. We're going to do 4 secondary sources. I don't know what that was about. We're going to do 4 because we're there we go. All right, 4 secondary sources in 1 film. So there will be 5 sources on your MLA page, on your works cited page. I'm sorry. You will have a works cited page. You will have proper MLA formatting, and you'll integrate quotes, both from the film and quotes from your sources. Okay. So we're already thinking about essay 2 right now. So here are the 7 critical lenses that you can choose from to apply to your film. Okay. The best thing to do is watch your film. Find a film that decide on the film you want to watch, that you want to write about, and then pick 2 critical lenses that you feel are present in your film. Okay. So here are some of those. These are kind of like philosophies, but instead of philosophies, these are critical lenses. Marxism, not Marxism, the economic system. Okay. But a Marxist analysis tries to ask the question, what does the film say about the negative aspects of materialism, wealth, and income? All right. What does the film say about the negative aspects of wealth, materialism, and income? Some films that show this, all right, that one could apply a Marxist interpretation of. It's American Psycho. I mean, that's the most Marxist film you could ever imagine. It is, which is funny because I have a lot of ignorant students, young students, who think that like it's such a great film and that they want to, be feel cool, great in the wrong way. They want to like be these like Wall Street sharks. And I'm like, that film is actually like anti Wall Street. It's anti that whole culture. All right. Into the Wild, The Lady and the Tramp. I mean, if you want to keep it G, this film is very much has a Marxist interpretation of how the tramp is as low class. I mean, the Lady and the Tramp and Titanic are practically the same. The lady is Rose, the tramp is Jack, and they are far more virtuous than the uber rich. So these films definitely have a Marxist lens. Okay. Now look, I'm not teaching you all the lenses. I'm just going over them briefly because part of the paper is you doing research on your own and teaching yourself. Psychoanalytic. What does the film say about complicated and contradictory human desires in nature? It's all about the subconscious, what's happening underneath. Great examples. The Departed. I love The Departed. Departed is my go-to film. Marriage Story, great, awesome. And Gangs of New York. Thing about Gangs of New York and The Party, they both have Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're both Martin Scorsese. Both great films. Marriage Story, very good as well. These are all 3 that one could apply a psychoanalytic analysis on. Feminism. What does the film say about the feminine experience? Films like this can show a woman succeed, or it could highlight the challenges and social barricades, or it could focus on the toxicity of males. Even The Lord of the Flies or Fight Club can have feminist readings of them without there ever being any women, or just one, in the film. Okay, so you can do a feminist analysis of a film without even focusing on female characters. We can have this idea of femininity and masculinity. And what does this say? What does the film say about that? If you have these alpha males, and then you have these more what would see to be as more feminine males. Midsummer, whoo, great horror movie. That Midsummer is a product of the Me Too movement. It is a great film to be applying a feminist analysis of. Cold Mountain, I mentioned that before. The book, the movie has a very strong feminist theme to it. Moana, I'm actually going to talk about Moana next week. Okay, so part of your homework this week is if you haven't seen Moana in a long time, or you've never seen it, to watch it. So I'm going to talk about Moana next week. Again, Fight Club and Titanic with Rose. Queer theory. What does the film say about the queer experience? Same as feminism, films like this can show how a queer person succeeds, or it could highlight the challenges and social barricades, or it could focus on the toxicity of heterosexism. Films can have queer interpretations of them without there being any explicitly out characters in them. Okay. So sometimes those types of relationships are masked, like fried green tomatoes. Fried green tomatoes. Did I put that on here? No, but I should put fried green tomatoes on here. Fried green tomatoes is clearly about LGBT relationships, even though it's never explicitly shown on the screen. The Lost Boys, it's a horror movie about vampires, but it's actually a very symbolic story about a teenager dealing with the realization of his own homosexuality. Okay. Um, um, Echo criticism. What does the film say about the earth and nature? Into the Wild, The Happening. Oh, I mentioned before that Disney movie about the core, about that, I can't remember what it is, Lost World or whatever, about people drilling and killing the earth. All right. So some of these films, The Happening is great. That one is is what you would call it in like an echo thriller, an echo horror film. Critical race theory, CRT. What does the film say about people of color that challenges norms or presents other types of experiences? Sometimes they can be like very just obvious, like Get Out. Oops, Get Out, or what's the other one? The Hate You Give. All right, but then others are more symbolic, like The Fox and the Hound can be interpreted as a film about race, where the fox is represents people of color and the hound represents white people. Night of the Living Dead, where you have a black main character and he's being pursued by these mindless white zombies, which represents how people who are racist are really just mindless flesh eaters. Religious moralism. Does the film project a certain type of morality through the film? Is it alluding to a religious text or a specific type of faith? Okay, No Country for Old Men is a great one. Most Westerns, 310 to Yuma. Woo-hoo, that movie has so many biblical allusions in them. Okay, a lot of biblical imagery. Again, all of these films, the films that I don't want you to like watch like obvious films. Films that are obvious about these things. All right. And so the topics discussed in the films shouldn't be necessarily these types of ideas. All right. Like, I don't necessarily want you to find a film that's actually about. So there's a film called About a Boy, which is or no, Boys Don't Cry. Boys Don't Cry, which is a film about a trans man who's played by Hilary Swank and gets discovered in a town, and he gets abused and eventually murdered. Okay, like doing a queer theory analysis of that film, that's not very deep because the whole theme deals with transphobia. Okay, like same thing with like for critical race theory, analyzing The Hate You Give, which is like clearly about uh, police brutality enacted towards the Black community, you can't do that. That's too obvious. So these are things that you should think about once it sounds interesting, and then research them. And then you can consider any of these films I listed. You don't have to pick any of these films. I'm just providing you some examples. All right. So last week you were supposed to watch Candyman. And so here I'm going to present to you a Marxist, a feminist, and a critical race theory analysis of the film. And kind of give you examples of the types of things that you'd be doing and discussing in your paper. Now, the only thing difference is that I don't provide any type of secondary sources in this. All right. So while this is kind of like, this is partially a sort of visual essay analysis, right? It's not exactly what you would do because A, you're writing a paper, and B, you're using outside sources as well. All right. But I'm just showing you how you can like think about the films. Okay. So just the title credits alone, the opening sequence represents the transition between the two different worlds that take place in the film. So this is about this film is about the conflict between two opposing worlds. All right. So like I said, how I'm doing a couple of different analysis of this film. So this transition between two worlds, it can be, if you're, from a critical race theory perspective, this is the transition or the separation between the white community and the Black community. From a Marxist perspective, this is the upper class and then the lower class, how they have two very different experiences. And then if you look at this from a feminist perspective, the patriarchy, the world of the men versus the female experience. Okay. So this already sets the tone that this film is about the transition between two different existing worlds, experiences. All right, we have the bees. The bees in the film. Bees symbolize the deadly and oppressive power of the individual. Depending on the lens, the bees could be symbolic of racism. So the bees in relation to Candyman is racism. The bees in reference to Helen is sexism or misogyny. And then the bees in terms of the city, and then also in Cabrini Green, are about class discrimination. It's the power. It's the power, all right? The power of the hive comes from those who are powerful, representing the upper class community of Chicago. So again, if we're applying the bees to a theme, okay, major themes depending on the lens. So if you are writing about critical race theory, you'd say Candyman is about the destructive effects of racism on Black society. That's a major theme of the film through our analysis. If you're doing a feminist analysis, you'd say Candyman is about the destructive effects of misogyny on women in society. And if you're doing a Marxist interpretation, you can say, oops, I need to delete that feminism part. Marxism, Candyman is about the destructive effects of the wealthy privilege on the lower classes of society. Ooh, okay. Those are three different themes using the bees and from these different lenses: critical race theory, feminism, and Marxist. Candyman, some different ways that we can interpret Candyman. First, we're going to look at Candyman through a critical race theory analysis. Candyman could represent the embodiment of the racist stereotype of Black men. Racist stereotypes. All right, these are often, and these have been written about. This is not just Mr. Byers. This is there's a lot of literature about the racist stereotypes of Black men, and a lot of these come from or have been exploited through film. All right, one is that they are dangerous and threatening. Another is that they're sexual predators. This is a screenshot of the film The Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation from the 20s or the teens. This film was shown at the White House, and it's about escaped Black men who are just running rampant through towns and villages, killing and raping women, and that the towns have to be saved by the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. After this film premiered, which was like a Hollywood film, the membership of the KKK soared. It just went sky high. They had the most members ever after this film, and like this is supposed to be the black character, but it's played by a white person, a white actor in blackface, and it perpetuated this racist stereotype that black men are dangerous and they're sexual predators. Okay, and so this hook here, it symbolizes a weapon. It's his weapon. He's dangerous. All right. Black men are so dangerous that their hand is a weapon itself. And a hook is a phallic symbol, it's a sexual symbol. And so black men are often sexualized as sexual predators, and which is also further represented by his pimp codes. All right. He is in the business of trafficking human bodies, women, female bodies. All right. Now, black men want to objectify white women. They just want to come out. They just want to come after the white women, which is very much, again, born out of this film, Birth of a Nation. There's a scene in which a white woman is being attacked by a black man. He's trying to rape her, and she comes to the edge of a cliff, and she looks at him, she looks at the cliff, and she decides to jump off the cliff because she would rather kill herself than be raped by a black man. And when this film was shown in movie theaters, people applauded the scene. They like, woo, they're like, yes, and they would applaud. So, you know, there is a long history of racist stereotypes. So this film, now, but this film is not perpetuating these. It is using these stereotypes. Okay. It's purposefully using the stereotype of black men. Okay. And it's acknowledging that this is a myth. This is not real. This comes from Helen's head. Helen, being a white woman, Candyman is not a real person. Candyman's kind of, it's just like Childish Gambino, and this is America music video from last week. He is the embodiment of a racist idea. He is not a real black man representing black men. He is the racist interpretation of black men in the minds of people like Helen, and so he is her racist idea come to life, and now he is punishing her. He's punishing her, all right, because she shouldn't be having these racist ideas. I'm the writing on the wall, he says, the whisper in the classroom. Without these things, I am nothing. And that is the writing on the wall, the whisper in the classroom is the continuation of racist comments about black people. I am rumor. It is a blessed condition, believe me, to be a whisper about at street corners, to live in other people's dreams. Again, race, you know, all these stereotypes of black men, that because they are black, they are dangerous, and because they are black, they are sexual predators. This is, again, not true. Being black does not make you dangerous. Being black does not make you a sexual predator. Have there been black men who have been predators? Sure. But have there been white men also who are that way? Yes. Are there Latino men who have done that? Yes. Are there Scandinavian men who have been sexual predators? Yes. Being something doesn't make you a dangerous person. And this film is acknowledging that. Okay, we gotta move on. I have 10 minutes. All right, a critical race theory analysis of Helen. All right, she represents the white racist, a white woman. She's a white manipulator. She uses black people for her own purposes. I can call him. She gets this little kid to like call to show her where Candyman is, and she doesn't care that she got him in trouble, or that he might be killed as a snitch. She doesn't care about the women. She just uses them for her own desires. The mirror. She's always looking in a mirror. She sees the world always as a mirror, looking at situations only through how she will benefit. She just sees herself. She also has this white savior complex, this idea of benevolent racism. She's kind to black people. Therefore, she thinks that she's being good to black people, but she's not. She's just causing more problems. And then she becomes the white savior. She saves the baby, even though it was her fault for getting Candyman back out. And then she takes his job. He was the person coming out through the mirror, and now she becomes that thing. And so, okay, she appropriates his job. Cool. Appropriates blackness for her own benefit. Mirrors. She's always seeing herself. How will this benefit me? The mirror also refers to her need to look within herself and acknowledge her own cognitive bias. Candyman comes out of the mirror when she calls him because she's really conjuring him from her mind, because that's the way she sees black men, as dangerous, and only tools for her to use is her own subconscious racism or her own subconscious social superiority. Well, we could also have a feminist analysis of Helen. We can look at her with more empathetic eyes. Okay. She's a victim of the patriarchy, of misogyny. She's patronized and laughed at by men. Remember that professor, Trevor's friend, laughed at her, literally laughed at her face about her research, this guy. Okay. She wasn't even done with her research, and he cornered her, and then he laughs at her. He mocks her. She's physically dominated by men. This guy, who this other version of Candyman, who hurt her, who abused her in the bathroom. Women are consistently valued only as sexual objects. I mean, with the opening scene where we have this woman who's almost like a young Helen with the blonde hair, she's just there to be sexualized. All right, we have Trevor and the young girlfriend who doesn't wear, she is, which it's her right not to wear a bra. Who cares about that? But the film sexualizes her. Okay, women can wear whatever they want to wear, right? But the filmmakers made her into a sexual object by emphasizing her body. Candyman fell in love, but his only form of expressing love isn't buying her, getting her flowers, or writing her love letters. It's to have sex with her. All right, sex is the value of this woman that Candyman was in love with, and so, and then he picks her up and he carries her around. He puts his hook up her dress. She's covered in the bees, all right, because the bees represents the power of men that men have over her, and using her body and using her mind however they please. So the bees equal the patriarchy, the misogyny. Okay. But we can also apply a Marxist interpretation of Helen. Class struggle. Marxist analysis focused on class struggle, particularly the oppression of the proletariat by the bourgeoisie. The proletariat, minority population in relation to economic wealth, people who are considered lower class. In this film, it's Cabrini Green, right here. And then workers. The bourgeoisie, Helen, the majority. By majority, mean those who hold the power, okay, not in numbers. People who are in higher class. Helen and Trevor are in the upper class. They live in these really nice lofts. They don't have a lot of money because they're professors, but they probably have family money. Cabrini Green Cabrini Green is made by the same architect as Helen's and Trevor's apartments, but clearly they're very different. Okay. Helen is highly driven by accomplishments. In a capitalist society, value is given to the concept of success, status, and legacy. She just wants to be published. Everything is a mirror that reflects herself and her ambition. People are either a stepping stone or an obstacle. When she sees people, she sees how she will benefit. All right. She is analyzing the death of the woman in Cabrini Green for her research. And her friend Bernadette says, this isn't one of your fairy tales. The woman got killed here. Like, show a little respect. But Helen is completely disconnected from the realities of her world, because being hyper-focused on success and status can cause one to lose sight on reality. So continuing with this Marxist interpretation, we have housing privilege. Helen in Trevor's apartment versus Cabrini Green. Helen and Cabrini Green were made by the same architect, which represents much of the separate but not equal policies in segregated America. America wants to present this idea of the unconstitutional policy of segregation. All right, there's like redlining, Public use of land, freeways were used to segregate neighborhoods. All right. So I'm not gonna read some of that research because we're kind of running out of time. But that like there's a clearly an absolute, there's supposed to be a comparison here between Helen's apartment complex and Cabrini Green and how they're very much unequal, even though they're made by the same person. All right. Candyman also represents the dark side of capitalism. He himself, he's the devil one sells their soul to for success. All right, ritualized through saying his name 5 times in the mirror. You have to conjure him up. There he is. It's a modern retelling of The Devil and Tom Walker. If you read that story about the man who sells his soul to the devil, and the devil is a black man. Actually, he's not really a black man. He's a man covered in soot, so he appears black. So you can say he's not really a black man. He's just covered in soot because he comes from hell, and she has to call him up in order to be able to get what she wants. Consequences: once success is the goal, all personal relationships are disposable. All right, so we have the bees, and then family, children, friends become the sacrifices for success. Bernadette's death, literally she's covered with the photos that Helen took. This is a big symbol that Helen's focus on her work killed their relationship. She's a victim of their relationship because work obsession with one's work and success will kill your relationships. Okay. Bernadette's death equals the inevitable professional betrayal. All right. Okay. Homework this week. Find a film to view and analyze. You can pick one of the movies that I listed in my PowerPoint. You can watch some other movies. Maybe you already have one in mind that you like to use. All right. It doesn't have to be one of the suggested films, but it needs to be a film whose storyline is symbolic of a larger theme. You can't watch Saving Private Ryan and say its theme is about war, but you could watch it to conduct a psychoanalytic analysis. You can watch Saving Private Ryan and say, really, this is about careers. Okay, this is about America in the 1980s. All right, something that's not obvious. No actual work to be turned in this week because I'm still grading essays. We will start working on outlines next week, so you got to watch a film this week. If you have time after finding a film or beforehand, watch Moana. I'll be doing an analysis of Moana next week. I'll be conducting a feminist analysis of Moana next week. If you've seen it and you know it real well, you don't have to rewatch it. All right. There's no quiz or test over it. All right. So it's fine. All right. If you have any questions or you need some film suggestions, let me know. Okay. Check you later. Peace out. Bye-bye.